What's up, everybody? It's Man of Low Moral Fiber here. My name's Luke, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Storm as a part of my Does It Suck series. The Storm is a Pearlescent Maliwan Sniper rifle, and it is always in shock element. It has the special effect of creating the shock orbs around when you shoot it that deal damage to nearby enemies. One interesting thing about this weapon and other Maliwan Sniper rifles is that it doesn't have the same splash damage that you would expect. If we shoot the Snider here, you can see some surfaces show it better than others. There's a good second explosion that comes after you shoot it, and that contributes to the Snider's overall damage because that splash damage gets applied to every enemy very, very quickly. This weapon, however, the splash damage is distributed amongst these orbs, and that's a little bit weird. Beyond that, in comparison with the Snider, which is, very similar in construction, I have it here with the same accessory, the same grip, and this is the Maliwan barrel here at the purple rarity. We can see that the Storm does have a slightly higher base damage. However, it has a significantly lower fire rate, and it does have a higher chance to electrocute. So, that's kind of weird that it doesn't have a higher shock damage over time, in my mind, but regardless, let's go ahead and see if it can strip the shields of the stalkers here. This was one kind of niche use that I could think of for it that would make it at least worth having on a Sniper Zero. Now, I have heard gauges say that they like this weapon, and so right now I'm just seeing if it can strip this Rabid shield or these Rabid shield, and it cannot, just without a direct hit. And so it kind of sucks for that, which I was thinking might be one justifiable use for it. So without that, I can kind of say that the special effect kind of sucks, but I have used it in the past for, this guy's irritating me now, for taking on Pete when I knew I was going to have to pull his, shit, I just have to fast travel. I didn't want them chomping me off the edge, and I couldn't find Washburn Refinery in time. Regardless, let's head over there now. Yeah, so I've used it against Pete when I knew I was going to have to pull the valve that would make those spider ants spawn. And I did that specifically because I knew that those ants would die very quickly when I had a lot of critical ascension. The critical ascension boost, much like the boost to splash damage on a normal Snider, does indeed boost the damage over time of the Storm. So here's a map where we might get some damage over time going, and we could see maybe it, start to work. Alright. Now, it looks really spectacular. It's just not as spectacular as it would seem. If you have a group of enemies like that, and you could get some boar reliably, I would say it would be, pretty swell for that. So I do have the shock bone on. I just wasted my critical ascension, but I wanted to make sure. If you were just using it as a straight up damage rifle, I would say it's definitely inferior to a sniper if you do to a Snider, excuse me. If you do the math there on the DPS, the higher fire rate means a lot, and it means even more when you think about critical ascension and the ability to stack it with a higher fire rate and everything. So that was really dumb on my part, but I knew I had some transfusion trails coming. It does kind of add to the visual pollution, makes it hard for me to, kind of see what's going on and everything. Now, this weapon is not without its uses. I've sometimes, in very niche scenarios, used it to build bloodlust stacks with Krieg without aggroing enemies. And I'm trying to remember which situations those were. I think it was the barroom brawl. I was, building stacks of bloodlust without injuring any of those enemies directly, and thus it wouldn't cause the group aggro there. So I could get up to max bloodlust stacks and then start the bar brawl for whatever reason I was, trying to do that. So here, I'm a little bit worried about this weapon. The transfusion trail's keeping me alive and everything, but with the lower fire rate, it definitely kind of hinders you against enemies like that bull loader where you need to get a specific critical hit at a certain time. Otherwise, you're kind of, up a creek or whatever. The weapon's low fire rate does kind of contribute to the difficulty with stacking critical ascension with this weapon, which could very easily remedy some of its problems. However, that is not really available. So just by, base performance, the Storm's not that bad. It's still a pretty damn decent Maliwan Sniper rifle, and Maliwan Sniper rifles are very good. So I would say it doesn't suck there. It is unfortunate that it only comes in shock, which is a fairly, I don't know if I would say underpowered. I would say it's very much less useful than other elements like fire and corrosive. So that kind of hinders it a little bit. It might really be good in certain scenarios if it could come in other elements, especially if those elements lasted a little bit longer, because the shock damage over time is so short. Perhaps, a better one might be useful for certain health gate scenarios or something, but this one only being in shock element, and there are some shock only weapons like the Twister and stuff that are just fine, and it's fine for them to be shock. They're still very powerful. This one could definitely benefit from being available in another element. Regardless, it's still a Maliwan Sniper rifle, like I said. It's still more than powerful enough to kill enemies, and kill them pretty easily. So if you're trying to say it's not a viable weapon, that's not really true. It's not as powerful as traditional Maliwan Sniper rifles in traditional Maliwan Sniper rifle roles. However, it does have some niche uses. I can think of the Pete one right now and the Krieg one, which kind of take place on the same map, coincidentally. But beyond that, I'm not thinking of a ton of things that come to hand at the end game at overpower level 8. So I don't know. It's definitely not a weapon that's incapable of killing enemies. It is definitely going to kill them, but I would definitely recommend a traditional Maliwan Sniper over this. I don't see a benefit to it, And the low fire rate is really aggravating, I would say. It might have some benefit if you got some really crazy bore action. It might look really cool aesthetically, but overall, just as a weapon, it is a little bit lackluster. You can see here it takes way more shots than a regular shock sniper would take, and it is exacerbated, I would say, by the fact, well, it might not take less shots, but it takes way longer because of the lower fire rate. So that's interesting to note. Alright, so we're just going to kill this guy here, kind of keep our critical ascension up, hopefully, while we do that. There we go. So now we have enough critical ascension to make it through the last room that we're going to do. As far as determining a verdict on whether or not this weapon sucks, I would say it's a meh weapon. It doesn't suck because it's still a decent weapon. You know what I mean? I really wanted to shoot that exploder, but it didn't want me to shoot it, so whatever. Now, if you have a ton of critical ascension and you need to strip the shield on a group of enemies, I've heard that at least presented as an opportunity to use this weapon effectively. I could see it used like that. I just don't see those situations as very frequent, and I think it would be hard to argue that they are. I really did try to find one useful thing for it before this, as I was starting the video, but that didn't work out. It definitely couldn't take out those stalkers like I wanted it to. So that is of note, I would say. It looks ridiculous, I can tell you that much. Looks like it broke a barrel or something there, I don't know. So we'll kill that guy now, and we're pretty much out of the woods. Like I said, it's not a unviable weapon or a non-viable weapon by any means. It's a very effective weapon with 0, and I've heard, but it is less effective, I should say, than other sniper rifles with 0, but he is so proficient with them. I've heard from Gauge players that it is beneficial for them. I can't really, comment on that. I don't play Gauge, so perhaps it is, but then again, there are definitely better weapons to use on Gauge as well. I don't really see this as a top or high tier weapon in very many scenarios at all. Like I said, it does have a few niche uses, like I said, the peat thing and the bloodlust stacks thing. Perhaps it could be used to build up bloodlust stacks before other encounters with Krieg as well, because it doesn't seem to directly aggro enemies, but it does very much build up those bloodlust stacks. So it's got some niche uses, but it's just not the world's best thing. So you can see how the damage over time there really didn't kill that enemy. So it looks really, really explosive and everything, but it doesn't really do as much. Because of the fix to the Hyperius Gate thing, these no longer are 4-player health scaled enemies, I don't believe, and so that should make them a lot less dangerous. And a lot easier to kill as well. So, I mean, it's effective as a weapon, but it's less effective than similar weapons. So I would say kind of the effect on it does kind of suck, especially since it has that much lower fire rate. As a weapon, just concerning raw viability, it doesn't suck. It's kind of a mixed bag for me on this weapon. It's not the worst weapon in the world, but I don't find it very useful. Anyways, as always, guys, I thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. If you haven't yet taken the time to subscribe, please do so. I'd appreciate that. Otherwise, I do hope to catch you next time. Bye, guys.